Welcome to episode 25. Or, avoid that first impression you give someone upon meeting them for the first time that you had a stroke. Let them guess. Or another way to phrase it, how to work your facial muscles and save your smile after a stroke. Also, I should at the outset mention, I give a series of 3 exercises that Mass General gave me to work my facial muscles immediately. And I did that for 10 years, so it's not something that you can only do within the first few seconds, but it's easier the earlier you start on that process. I wanted to avoid the problem of, after a stroke, some people, including especially me, had a crooked or distorted smile. So it's still distorted a little, but not as bad as it used to be. You know, the first thing you notice when you meet people for the first time is they're looking at your face. And it's very important to work your face back into shape at the beginning of the stroke. The earlier you get started, the better. Also, I should mention at the outset, at the end of the video, I'll give you 3 exercises I was given by Mass General from my hospital bed to start working on that problem or issue. You know, the first thing people notice about you is your face when they first meet you. And I wanted to avoid having my face crooked a lot. It's still crooked, still distorted, but not so badly that the stroke is entirely evident. So it is very important to start the work on your face and muscles, getting it back into shape at the outset of the stroke. The earlier you start on this issue, the better the outcome would be, and you'll keep it up for a long time. I did. I basically every day did this. Not so much at the end, but I still did it for 10 years because I wanted to keep my smile. Please like and subscribe to this video and to this channel. It is important to the YouTube algorithm to be able to get a lot of likes and a lot of subscriptions in order to get broadcast more and more. Because I hope to give you all a message of hope. And if no one's, it's like a tree in a forest. If it falls and no one's there to hear it, then did it fall? But anyway, let's drop Philosophy 101. This is something Mass General Hospital immediately set me to work on from my hospital bed with my left hand and my right cheek. My right hand at that time was totally immobile. My right side was totally immobile. So therefore, as I said, I you know, and I was barely able to speak haltingly, so I got out somehow. How do I? And they said, use your left hand. Okay. Anyway, I The therapist suggested this twice a day, and I performed it 6, maybe 8 times a day. What else do you have to do in a hospital bed, lying flat on your back? I couldn't read, watch TV, anyway. So I had a stroke, and I wanted to cover it up because I was ashamed. Having been so healthy most of my life, I had finally reached the upper levels of my profession after years of struggle from the bottom up. It was my second career, and the second time I started from the bottom. I was devastated, to say the least. And that is the price for most of us for changing careers, by the way. Starting from the bottom up, I didn't have a sugar daddy, powerful friends, or a family to help me. Anyway, recently, by the way, I went on a trip to New York City and then on to Scotland. And I saw a friend in Scotland who I hadn't seen in over 40 years. And her face gave me a clue that something was terribly wrong. It was without expression. And I soon discovered she had recently been diagnosed with Parkinson's. And apparently one of the symptoms of the typical Parkinson's patient is the facial muscles are an early sign. And I felt such pain that someone I knew as someone so quick to smile was now an empty stare. There was little she could do about it. But most stroke survivors can do something about it. And I will show you what the therapist showed me in a second. In part of the return trip, I summoned late at night an Uber to go from JFK to my daughter's condo in Brooklyn. The Uber driver was a young female and hesitated to pick me up at first. And she commented when because it was at night. I'm the type to hesitate also. But she commented as I got into the car that I must be a nice guy because my profile picture, she presented me with a big smile. And that picture was taken after the stroke. Otherwise, she would not pick me up, she told me. A ready smile is a very important tool for a person who hasn't had a stroke, but doubly so for a person who has. It diffuses most situations, and definitely when you ask for something, it wins most people over. People often comment after 6 to 8 months after the stroke, how do I work my muscles so that to make my face not so obvious that I had the stroke or I'm a stroke survivor. Often it's much more difficult. You can do these exercises when you can't do something else. So these exercises are good for developing the stroke affected area and the facial muscles as soon as you can move at all. So start them from the hospital bed. I performed them religiously until my face was back in shape. Started to be back in shape after a year, but I continued for roughly 10 years, as I said, often regularly. You have nothing to do that is more worthwhile, both in and out of the hospital. The idea is to stimulate the area of the face, get the blood flowing, and of course, pass these exercises by your therapist or doctor for permission. Don't be like the kid with music lessons who only practices, like me, I used to, when the teacher is around. Take advantage of this time you have free to work your face. The more you work at this, the easier it becomes. So, per session, at the outset, per session, do all three in order. So these are the three exercises: intense pinching of the cheek, rhythmic stroking of the facial area, and then blink the affected eye. At the same time, squeeze the muscles of your cheek, not using your hand. I'll repeat. So you're doing a movement like this. Don't use your hand. Blink your eye and squeeze upwards your cheek. So, do each exercise the following. Per session again, do all three in order. So, 1, intense pinching of the cheek. I'm using my left hand. Eventually, when I can move my right, I used it just to give it also some therapy for that. So just pinch it, sometimes hard. Intensely pinch the cheek. A basic cycle is 15 reps. Then, number 2, rhythmic stroking of the facial area. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do it 15 times. Then blink the affected eye and at the same time squeeze the muscles of your cheeks, not using your hand. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That 15 times. Then repeat it all 3 times. So that means each exercise you're doing 45 times. They recommended minimally 2 sessions a day. I did maybe 6 a day. These exercises certainly helped me so much. These exercises help me, as I said, enormously. Until the next time, I leave you with the message. As always, don't give in to struggle. Thank you very much.